Hello and welcome to the Artisan School, where we talk about Pianocraft all week long. We do this 3 times a week, where we do a live virtual training session on everything from piano repairs, piano tuning, voicing, even how to run a successful piano servicing company. Servicing business is something that we've been doing for about 25 years. I guess I started about 25 years ago, but we started the company about 20 years ago. And so we have a fair amount of experience doing just this, which is piano servicing and having a lot of fun doing it. Today we're going to be doing something called soft pedal voicing. And I'm a really big fan of anything voicing because I don't feel like there's a lot of material out there, or maybe it's the opposite. There's a lot of material, a lot of noise out there regarding voicing, regarding needling, softening, raising the tone. And when I was shown this a dozen years ago by one of my mentors, it was really helpful because it was just a simplified, easy to understand kind of fun foundational process that really should be done on most all pianos, and that is soft pedal voicing. So for those that don't really know what we're talking about, we have the far left pedal, which is called the soft pedal or the una corda pedal in our grand. And what that pedal does is it allows us to shift the action over. So you press the pedal down and it shifts the action over to, in theory, it allows the hammer to miss one of the 3 strings. It also makes it so that the hammer is connecting to the strings at a different portion of the hammer as well. And so what we're going to be doing is doing a stitch or multiple stitches. By the way, a stitch is a puncture with a voicing needle. And so we're going to do a stitch or a puncture of the voicing needle on these different points of the hammer where when the action is moved over, hitting that point in the hammer with the string. And so what the player gets with this is more of a bigger difference. When they utilize the soft pedal, they get more of a quieter sound because we've punctured the hammer in that pressed pedal position so that they really get a great benefit. It also breaks up the overall density of the hammer there and gives it some more buoyancy. And so I'm actually a big fan of this service, but there's some little tricks and tips that we've learned over the years that can make it a lot easier. Just right off the top, has anybody done much of this soft pedal voicing while I get a drink of coffee?
I did it on my piano.
How did it go?
It went pretty good. Like, I was very happy with the way it sounded.
Yeah, I did it for a customer a few months ago. They were actually a piano teacher, and they were having their piano be very bright and more bright than they wanted to. And I went through the same process in the upper mid-range all the way through the upper treble, and it really helped.
I notice when people, sometimes when they say the upper register sounds like off or bright or tinny, sometimes it's not just the pitch. Sometimes it is that voicing that needs to be done. So, yeah.
Yeah. I would say that the majority of the pianos that I have to go back to, because we guarantee all of our work. And so if I'm usually going back to something, it's really never a tuning issue. It's usually a voicing issue. And so this is a good tool to have in your toolkit to know how to do. We're going to need a series of tools and kind of supplies. So the first thing that you're going to need is a voicing block. And so this is something that you can make. I think these are kind of ridiculously priced for a block of wood. I think this is like $30. I could be wrong, but it seems like you should be able to get this for $1 somewhere. But anyways, you're going to need a voicing block. Some kind of single needle voicing tool. And so this is just the one that I have on hand. I've had this like forever. And I just recently got, because we're filming a course right now, I wanted to up the ante. I wanted to get something a little bit nicer. And so I recently got this one. Stacy got this for us. And this is where did we get this one? Where's it? The Irwin Piano Supply?
Oh, we got it. Yes, that one was at Irwin's. Oh, it looks not. Oh, it's pretty. I didn't get to see it yet.
And a lot of times these ones are ridiculously priced, like in the hundreds, like several hundred. but this one was like 125. And so I thought that was pretty good. And so we're able to adjust the needles out. It came in this little nifty case with a little Allen wrench so we can change out the needles. But I recommend having a single needle tool and either a triple needle tool like this or a quad. And so they also make a 4 needle version. I don't think Irwin Brothers sells a 4 needle, but definitely a 3 needle. Yeah. But having a 3 needle and a single needle is a good idea when we're doing soft pedal voicing, and we'll go over that. Then finally, I think that the secret to this, the magic sauce, if you will, to this whole procedure is this right here. Can anybody guess what this is?
Carbon paper.
Michael knows. Carbon paper. Justin got it. Carbon paper. And so it's funny because a technician showed me this trick, I would say 15 years ago. And at the time, I didn't think much of it. And when he mentioned that he had carbon paper, I was like, well, I'm never going to be able to do this trick because carbon paper doesn't exist. I don't know why. I didn't think it was around anymore. But this was next day Amazon Prime shipping. I got this, and it's just carbon paper on Amazon. I think it was like $4 for like 20 or 30 sheets.
That'll last forever.
I thought, okay, so that is funny because I was just at a customer's house. No, I was just at that Steinway at the plaza that we did an all action rebuild. And Jerry is one of the residents there. He's an elderly gentleman, and he's like, I think he's in his 90s, and he's just this greatest, sweetest guy. And I was doing some voicing, and I wanted to do some soft pedal voicing, but I didn't have any carbon paper on me. So I turned to Jerry, and I said, Jerry, this is a long shot. Do you by chance have any carbon paper? And he smiles like, I do. And so he, sweet, he goes back to his room, which he's gone for about 45 minutes, and he brings back this carbon paper. And I asked him, I said, how old is the paper? Just curious. And he's like, maybe 60 years old or something like that. I'm like, okay, let's try it. It didn't work. It had dried out. It actually didn't work. So I think there is a shelf life. I think it's between now and 60 years. Somewhere in that distance, this is going to go bad. So I would replace it every year or so for a couple bucks. But what this carbon paper allows us to do is it allows us to make an indentation of where these strings rest on the hammer. And that is really cool. And that is something that is just gives us a roadmap to follow. Again, this is something with newer pianos or hammers that you've just recently shaped. This is a good thing to do because you don't have any string indentations. You don't know where you're supposed to stitch and puncture those hammers. And so by creating this roadmap, you're going to be off to a great start. Any questions so far before we get started? Dan, I'm so happy to see you here. This is great to have you.
My joy to be here. Appreciate the invite. I was challenged to find my way, but I have arrived.
You did.
We're so glad you're here. Hey, shelf life for carbon paper, 1 to 3 years opening it. Wow.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Okay.
That's not very long. Just
That
like,
is not
wow.
very long.
I did not know that. So there you go.
We'll have to put that in the course, Stacy.
Noted.
I have one question about the needles. You said voicing needles, like you can see voicing needles. You can just use like regular sewing needles, right? If you get small ones.
Totally. There is. Hello?
Yeah, we can do it.
There is no such thing, as far as I know, about specific piano voicing needles. They're just needles. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael. Have you seen actual just voicing needles that don't have an eye in it?
Irwin will sell you some voicing needles. They say they're specific voicing needles from Germany. Irwin, they'll sell you specific voicing needles from Germany, they say.
Are they shaved off? Do they have the eyelet?
I think they're cut down already.
The ones that I have from Irwin are cut down. But there are different sizes of needles. So one of my questions was, do you have a preference on size of needle?
I don't. I mean, I don't like the ultra fine and I don't like the ultra thick. So I'm somewhere in the middle and then I adjust accordingly. Because I'm not just going crazy with it right away. I'm testing it. I think that this is maybe what separates me from other technicians, and that and Victor, you and I know each other. You're probably going to laugh at this because you've done a lot of research on other technicians, and a lot of technicians are very specific. They really have their routine and their specifics. I'm just not that way. I'm kind of more like let's do it. Let's make it work. And maybe that's not the best approach. And so, but there are a lot of technicians out there that will have certain specific things, and my hat's off to them. I'm just not that way. I think Jacob is a little bit more that way. But for myself, I've kind of just learned to adapt maybe to kind of the different sets of philosophies and just kind of go with the flow. And so that's why I like this group, because I didn't know that there was actual specific voicing needles. In the back of my mind, I'm kind of wondering if they're just regular needles that they just snipped off the eyelet, but I'm not going to judge.
Maybe they break. I break them. I always break them. Maybe I just don't know how to do it right, or they're not. I don't know. That's a pain to swap them out. But I use sewing needles to swap them out. So
Yeah.
Have you ever used a tack, David? Like a thumbtack?
I have.
I have. It worked really well.
Okay, so what Victor's you're talking about the ones that kind of are hourglass shaped, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they have like a little plastic end.
Yeah, the plastic topped.
I did it too because I was in a pinch and I broke a needle and I didn't have any more needles, and I said to the customer, like, do you by chance happen to have like a thumbtack? And they did, and I'm like, this isn't gonna work. And I did it. And to your point, it worked surprisingly well.
It's actually really nice because it's so small. You can get a really nice angle on uprights. And I did it with an upright. Yeah, exactly. I didn't have my kit. I was installing dollies on an upright, and the director was out of school, and they're like, it's just so bright. And I was like, oh, I don't have my tools with me. I was like, you have some tacks? And it worked so much better than I thought. Yeah.
That's part of the fun as being a piano technician, is we gotta work with what we have. It's very different than being an in-home field technician is very different than being, say, a store technician or a shop technician. We don't have everything at our disposal. We play jazz. I've talked about this before. This is improv. And that's part of the fun, I think, of it. It's just we have to work with what we have. We're almost like those Army medical people that are in the field. We're just having to do what we can. And so
MacGyver it. Yes.
Yeah, MacGyver it. All right, I'm going to show you how to mark off our strings using our carbon paper. Let's do that. So I'm going to open this, and Stacey's going to mark the clock so that in 1 to 3 years we're going to have to replace this.
Yes, I will do that. I will actually do that. You know what? I will actually do that.
For those that don't have a lot of experience with this, and I didn't either at the time, there's one side is coated with the carbon or graphite, and then the other is, just not. And so what we're going to be doing is draping this cloth or this paper over the hammers, so that we're going to be hitting this paper against the strings, so that the carbon is going onto the bottom of the string. From there, we're going to pull the paper out and then hit the hammers against those coated strings to therefore leave the impression. And so I'm going to show you a before, and hopefully this will come out. Yeah, that should go. So here's the before of we don't have any string grooves. You can see these are just nothing. I'm going to be flying blind here. And you can do this, by the way. You can go through, and if you've done a good hammer to string spacing, you can know, okay, I know my string is going to hit roughly right here, and then it's going to hit a distance right here, and then here. And again, one of the nice things about the A-graphs, or if you have a string lifting tool, or even these tools right here, is you can kind of memorize the spacing of strings, of your trichords. And that's something that you should kind of have memorized roughly what is the distance from string to string so that you can go ahead and know, okay, I know that my strings in the rest position with this action are going to land roughly here. So I'm going to voice around that position. But today, we're taking away the guesswork. We're just going to go for it. So again, I'm going to go and put my carbon paper, making sure I have the right side. Okay. From here, we're going to go ahead and slide it in. Can anybody guess what I need to do before I smack these against the strings?
Cheek blocks in.
Yeah, block the action.
Put the cheek blocks in, because guess what? What happens if I'm off to the side or kinked over? Now I've just made my impressions and it's like in a bad position. Put your cheek blocks in. You don't necessarily have to screw them in, but you have to put them in. Next question people have is, well, how hard are you pounding on everything? And the answer is like this. It's kind of satisfying. Not gonna lie. All right, so now I'm gonna take the paper out. I could see from this paper, I probably can't see it, but I could see a bunch of little 3 markings all over it. So it did connect. So here we go. I really hope we get some in. All right, moment of truth. Did it work? Oh,
Pretty.
so good.
Awesome.
So good.
Perfect. Oh, it's so good.
Look at those beautiful markings. That is exactly what we want. And so from here, hold on just a second. I got y'all. I'm going to go ahead and get this probably about right here. So you can see right there, we have all of these string markings. How perfect is that? That's exactly what we're looking for. So, by the way, this is funny. I did this to a piano at a piano store, and I didn't tell the sales staff about it. And I just did it. And that was a mistake. Because what happened is the salesperson later on, they loved the piano, it was working well and it sounded great, but they had a customer on it. And so the customer looked down and is like, I thought this was a brand new piano. Why are there all these string grooves in it? And I was like, and so they called me, I was like, no, this is just markings. That's where the strings lie so that I could voice it. And they're like, okay, maybe don't do that anymore. So, because it was a barrier for potential sale. So just so you know, if you do this in a store environment, make sure to really bring the staff in on what you're doing, because you don't want any kind of mix up right there.
That's
All right.
a really good point.
Here we go. Using our, what is this, voicing block, $30 voicing block. You could either go with it 30. You could either go with it, down here or up here. I kind of like to go with it like that. They do make different sizes, ones that are a little bit longer, and I think I like those ones a little bit better. But what I'm going to do is right here. And this allows me to go ahead and do all my stitching or my needling and just have a nice rough surface or a rigid surface to work with. So from here, it's really pretty simple. Again, we've taken all that guesswork out, and we have our single needling tool, and we're simply going to go through and do a stitch in between all of these groups. And so like this one you can see really well. I'm going to go through and I'm going to go and do a puncture here. Now, I should specify. So again, this is where the strings are striking the hammer at the rest position. So that means I want to puncture in between where these strings are. Because when I move the action over, it's going to be hitting where I punctured. And that's what we want. We want this to, when it's shifted over, the string and hammers connect where we punctured. Now, some people will say, oh, I only do 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. I like to do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll test this out. And if I'm using this as a real voicing down technique, a needling technique, I'll first start with this single needle like this. And depending on how much of a difference it made, if I'm like, wow, I like that, I wonder what would happen if I went with this guy, if I went my triple. And so in this case, I've done this before, where I've gone through and gone and done a triple needle. Again, it's breaking up the felt around where the strings connect. And it makes a big difference and really gives it a sweeter, more melodic tone. Now, wow, these are hard hammers. I can barely get my needles in them. This is, by the way, our beautiful, lovely Samick grand piano. So very hard, dense hammers. And so I might recommend, in this case, doing a triple needle and try not to break the needles off inside.
Your camera froze.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it's a good action shot. Oh, there you go. You're back. You're back.
Is that back?
Mm-hmm. I could hear you.
Okay.
I just couldn't see.
Questions about this so far? We kind of covered a lot, the tools necessary, the carbon paper, how to use the carbon paper, and the overall philosophy of soft pedal voicing. Questions about this?
Just to confirm, because I made this mistake on the voicing block, the tails should be hitting the wood regardless of where you put it. Don't put it under the shanks, because I've done it under the shanks accidentally.
It's a good question. Let me check.
Because you've got them on the tail. The tail's
Yeah,
resting.
I feel like
Or is
it
there-
just doesn't support it as much, you know? I think you can do it this way. I just don't feel like it supports it enough for me.
Yeah, I did one where I didn't have my voicing block with me, so I just used the cheek block and I put it under the shanks and was very gentle, so I didn't like scratch anything, but it worked.
Yep. I've done this where I didn't have a voicing block, and the the whippings just had the cushions. We didn't have this hammer rest rail, and so everything was soft. And so what I actually did is I took the key slip and I faced it downwards. So that is, the finished side was resting on those cushioned whippings, and then I used that a key slip as my voicing block, and it worked really well. But I was really careful because I didn't want that to move and gnar up, hurt anything. Don't recommend that, by the way. Those watching later on, I don't recommend that. Get a voicing block, save your pennies, and buy one of these gorgeous $30 voicing blocks if you need to, or go to Home Depot and buy a piece of, 1x2. So this is, I would say, the series of steps here. First step would be to go ahead and regulate and surface your hammers, shape your hammers. You've, in that process, also gone through and spaced your hammers. Everything is dialed in. You've also done your string leveling. You've done all the string leveling and mating the hammers to the string, so you're good there. And you've done a final tuning. This is the point now where I would do this service, where everything is dialed in and you're just doing that final finessing of refinement. And so this is that first step in our needling or voice, in our needling process, because this whole process with the hammer surfacing, mating the hammers to the strings, that's all part of voicing. That's all part of regulating the tone and maximizing the color and the flavor of the sound. So what this is really just the first step of needling. And it may be the only step of needling you do. It may be that from here you go into more of an angel or angle shot voicing. It may also be that you do some of the sugar coating where you're breaking up the top layer. Or you may decide that you really want to brighten up the tone and you're going to attempt to go and do some shoulder needling. Again, needling the hammer isn't just about softening it. Depending on what you're doing, you also hardening the hammer by needling. Because at different points, if you're releasing pressure on certain points, it's in turn building more pressure around other points of the hammer, creating more tone. And so there's a lot to be said for voicing, but no matter what, and that's why I love this step, this is a precursor to so many other things, and this is a good initial step. Because what people want, what your folks that are playing the piano, your high-end musicians, what the player wants is for them to be able to put that unicorda pedal in that shifted position and to hear a sweeter, softer sounding than when it's in the resting position. Everybody wants that. And this helps enable that. I'm always surprised whenever we do this carbon trick, how nice that looks and how much easier that is compared to for the 10 years I was just doing it by guess. And it doesn't take much, especially if you're working with a Steinway hammer, like shoot, I just punctured the wrong spot. Now I have to juice up this hammer. So what I would do is do the same trick. And what I might do is show you on the bass section. I mean, this treble section is going to be continuous throughout, right? You got 3 strings, but what do we do with the monochords, single notes, as well as the bichords, the 2 note sections in the bass? Let's kind of go over that a little bit. Just so you all know, I am very hesitant to do a lot of needling in the bass section. I usually want that bass to growl and rumble. And if anything, I need that bass to poke up a little bit more. And so I'm doing majority of my voicing or needling down, softening in this tenor and treble area so that I can kind of lower this portion of the piano so that it meets the bass section of the piano. So we get that good, again, that rumble. But let's go ahead and do our carbon paper to the bass. All right. Here we go. That was the bichords. I'm going to move it over to the monochords. When customers see you do this, they kind of are like, what in the world? I usually explain to the customers what's happening though. Boom. All right. Here we go.
You look so good.
It's so good.
Oh, that's so helpful. Look at that. Interesting.
So with regards to this, I typically in this bass section, again, I like to tread lightly. I might only do a single stitch just to the left-hand side of each of these to start out with. Again, what's going to happen is when I shift the action over to the right, the string is going to land here on this left-hand side of the hammer. So I might just do a single deep needle stitch right there throughout. Then, whoa, oh yeah, we have a broken string on this piano, so that's why I'm like, why isn't there a marking on that? And so for here, I'm probably also just going to do a single stitch right there and then one in the center. Stitch there, one in the center, left side, center. Because again, I don't want to do too much needling here in the bass. And by the way, whenever I do any kind of needling, I usually start in this area, this, what is that? The C5-ish area. Just to kind of get an idea of what I'm doing. I never start in the bass. I usually start in this really kind of bright area and just tread lightly to see, okay, what if I do a soft pedal voicing needling on a couple of hammers? What does it do to the sound? Do I like what it does to the sound? Does it just take away some of that harshness? It does? Great. I'm going to follow that throughout. But this is such... I think that if more technicians just knew some of this basic stuff, and it was interesting. So Stacy and I got to meet with Chip Meyer, the owner of Renner USA, the other day. It was great, and he's an amazing human being. He's just the salt of the earth, sweetest person, and he was so generous with his time. And we really wanted to kind of hone in. Is there Is there a straight through methodology that we can embrace as a school to piano voicing and juicing and softening and hardening and all that stuff? And I was hoping that he was going to say, yeah, when it comes to if you're looking at a hammer, if there's a staple on the rear side, it's going to mean that that felt is this, and then that means that you need to juice it, voice it, needle it this way. I am unfortunately sad to report there is no such thing, which I didn't think there was, but I was really holding out hope that there was. And so his recommendation was good, and that is, depending on the manufacturer of the hammer, there should be some specific instructions for voicing said hammer. And the problem with that is, I don't know about you, but the majority of pianos that I work on are historic pianos that are no longer in business. I can't get a Cable and Nelson upright instruction manual for how to juice or voice that hammer. And so there's a lot of this trial and error, playing around with different things. And so what we try to do as a school and is just equip each of you with tools. I guess that's the thing, is we just want to equip you with all the different tools so that you can go ahead and go into any hammer and know how to test it, to know what to do as a precursor to going a step further. You're going to have all the knowledge and all the skills necessary to try and eventually come to the conclusion for every piano, for every hammer out there. And that's about the best that we can do. And unfortunately, that's part of the issue with regards to the whole world around piano voicing, is that there's so many hammers, there's so much information out there, but I feel like because of that, it makes it so that the technicians are too nervous to do anything. They're too scared to do anything. And I think that part of that, what we can do as a school, is just to help eliminate some of that fear by just empowering you with all these different tools and techniques, just like we just learned here. The carbon paper trick is a phenomenal, it's kind of a security thing. It's a security blanket. You now know, I'm not going to mess this up by hitting a stitch in the wrong area because I see what I'm doing. All right, there's a little bit more confidence that we've given you. All right, a soft pedal voicing, just a single stitch. That's a good start. Great. Where do we go from here? That's, and so on and so forth. And so hopefully this is helpful. If any of you do find that invisible line that goes through everything, please let us know. We'll work with you to patent that. We'll all retire. But for the most part, it's just about having the knowledge and skills to go into any environment and to be able to utilize your toolbox and figure it out.
I do have a question, though. With the subjectivity of voicing it sounds like you have a lot of, the means justify the ends. You might do different things depending upon the hammer and the customer. How much subjectivity, or are there any thou shalt not things in voicing a hammer? And my follow-up is in the renter notes, he says he has a published step-by-step pre-filing, pre-voicing, and final voicing procedure, CPDF. Where is that?
That'll be on the Artisan course, but also in the meantime, it's also at just the Renter USA website.
I'll send it to you, Robert. I put it in that group a few days ago, so I'll resend to you.
Okay. Well, I pulled up the notes. Okay. I'll look again though. Okay. Yeah. Send it, please. I must have missed that.
And that's a good, okay. So in answer to your question, there are certain things. For instance, right at the strike point where the strings connect the top crown of the hammer, that is a danger zone. We do not want to be willy-nilly just going for it, because we can eliminate unintentionally the overall tone and presence by puncturing that hammer right at the crown at the string point, and we might not be able to get that back. Now, again, when you're adding a stitch, you're not popping a balloon. You're moving felt, right? And so you're just moving it. It's not like when you puncture it, that felt goes away. It just moves into a different position. And so the idea is that there's a springiness to the center top crown that we want to keep in place. And so the very top portion, we want to tread lightly. That's another reason why we're doing mapping out with carbon paper, just so we know exactly where those strings are, so that we're not hitting at that point.
And David, that's why we're doing the soft pedal in between the strings, that we're less likely to impact where the strings are connecting with the hammer, and that way, in combination with the angel shot, which again is off of the string grooves, you're staying away from the dangerous part.
Exactly. By the way, for those that are, because we've mentioned it a couple times, when we're talking angel shot or angle, depending on who you're talking to, what we're talking about is just this. And so we have, so you see those string grooves right there. I'm going to get it in focus just a second. So we can see that we have these string indentations, and with the angel, we are going towards the back end of the hammer right here. And what is that? Like a 45 degree at the very tail end of that, and puncturing, again, where those string grooves are, but at the very end of them and going down away from us. And what this does is it cuts down on the, I would say that it cuts down a little bit on the attack, but not the overall power. And so again, by doing this voicing right here on this back end, we're killing some of the abrasive attack without losing the power. And so for me, I like to do the soft pedal voicing first. If I'm wanting to soften and sweeten the tone, I'm usually going soft pedal. I see how that works. If it works really well, I might go and move to a triple needle soft pedal. From there, I'm going to go and do my angel shot. If I'm liking what that is doing, I'm going to maybe do another pass. And then finally, if I'm like, man, these hammers are just crazy bright, I might go through and with a multi-needling tool, just kind of break up the overall density in not deep. I'm not going deep with this final sugar, they call it sugar coating pass. I'm going and breaking up the top few layers a little bit. So my tool is only going in a 1/16 of an inch. So it's very light, and it's breaking through that first couple layers. And if that's still not making a difference, I'll go through and go further and further. So for instance, these hammers are like rock hard. And so I might get through my soft pedal voicing, my angel shot voicing, my initial sugar coating. And I'm like, this has not made any difference at all. So I'm going to go through now and just go for it. And I'm just reefing on it. I'm really going and breaking up that entire density as kind of a last resort. And I'll do that. But again, as you can see, I went through 3 or 4 other steps prior to getting to that point. And I think a lot of technicians, because they've only learned one tool, and that's not their fault. They've just never had the exposure to it. They may only have one tool in their voicing kit, their toolbox. And so luckily with all of you, you have multiple tools to try ahead of that last resort. And that's the idea behind this, is you're able to go through a step-by-step process to arrive kind of at your final destination, which is like, okay, these hammers are just super bright. The sound is abrasive. It's tinny. I don't like it. I'm going to go for it with a big old triple needle. I'm doing some hard stitching, and we're off to the races.
So David, after you complete, going through, hey, you're pretty happy with it. How are you communicating with the customer to make sure that they're happy, after you've completed, the voicing?
Usually what I'll do is I'll gradually work with them. If I'll gauge the customer's expectations first. If they're like, okay, I really want to be involved. I really want to finesse this. I want to make sure that everything's just right. I'll have them somewhat involved in the entire process in different steps, inviting them back. Do you like this? Do you like this? If they're like, no, it's harsh. The harshness is at a level 10. I want it brought down to a level 5. I'm like, all right, I'll see you in a half an hour, 20 minutes. I'm going to go through all these steps and really mellow it down and go for a sweeter tone. This, again, is another reason I'm a big fan of you all going to the local piano stores and seeing what the different pianos sound like. And once you can kind of capture, the Busendorfer, the Bechstein, the Heinstein, all of these tones sound like this, then you'll know this is what people want at that high-end level, and you'll kind of memorize that sound, that tonal color, and be able to work towards that within your customers' pianos. Because it's kind of this nebulous thing if you've never, experienced it. It's just like, okay, well, what is a good sound? Unless you've really experienced that high level of pianos and it's used that as your baseline. Oh, that's what it is. Now, you might be throwing a curveball, and that is, you go to a piano and it is just bright as all get out, and it's tinny and harsh, and the customer is like, don't you just love the sound of my piano? And we're like, whoa, okay. It's just great. I'm happy for you that you love it. You like the brightness? Yeah, I love it. Perfect. Let's just leave it. So it is super subjective. Other people are like, I cannot make it dark and mellow enough. I've had some people are like, the piano literally sounds like it's underwater, and they love it. They're like, oh, it's like dark, rich, velvety chocolate. Okay, I can't hardly hear a tone, but that's what you like, and I like that you are happy.
I don't know if you specifically mentioned it, but the soft pedal voicing you are doing in the crown, right? Just not where the strings sit.
Correct, which is great,
Yeah.
because we're able to break up that density without it being exactly where our strings are hitting. So we are able to keep and manipulate some of that springing tension in a very natural way that really that really gives the player more of a soft and loud effect with the unicorda pedal, which is nice. I have time for one more question before I have to, head out. Wow, it was pretty self-explanatory. Make your roadmap and you just
Everyone's
follow it.
ready to go out. Everyone's ready to go do it, right?
Everybody's ready for their weekend.
Yeah, happy Friday. Okay.
Do people, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, but maybe what we do for Monday is I go through, this might be kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe in this section of this piano, we play it before, and I do each layer of voicing in this section. So you can hear, okay, I've just done my single needle stitch of soft pedal voicing before. Here we go. Now I've just done it. You guys hear a difference? Oh yeah, it is getting a little bit more mellow. Now I'm going to do a triple needle. Now I'm going to do my angel shot. Now I'm going to do my real puncturing. People would that be helpful to kind of go through that process?
Yeah. The last time we did this, you did that, and it was extremely helpful because I didn't know what to listen for when I was like, does this need voice? So it's really helpful.
Okay.
Bring a thumbtack too.
I mean, thumbtack. I love it.
And you could resell them as thumbtack voicing needles
Yeah.
for $30. There you go.
We'll just X off the Staples or Office Supply packaging.
Thumbtacks and nickels.
That's right. All right, you all. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday where we're going to talk about, I would say that this is needling, voicing needling techniques is essentially what we're going to be doing. Kind of a step-by-step. And we'll do that whole section, and that'll be fun because I think that when you see it, again, you see this, it kind of breaks down the stigma of like, okay, what is this? And we'll just go through step by step so people can feel confident. All right. Have a great
Awesome.
weekend. I will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good to see you
Bye.
again, Dan. Bye.
Thank you.